This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of GolfTalk right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always. We are nearly at the Masters. Feels the Masters was only a couple of weeks ago, but we are back to normal times. We're back to April where it should be. I'm delighted to welcome Andy Fullen, pro at Lars Golf Club. Andy, it's a pleasure to welcome you back onto the show. Thanks for joining me.
No, thanks very much for having me back on. I'm looking forward to this.
How are you? All right?
Good, thanks. Aye, good. Just desperate for the season to get started, and desperate to see Augusta the way it normally is after November. So, really looking forward to this week.
Definitely, it's a brilliant week. We look forward to it every year, and we're going to get through. We're going to do a preview of this week's Masters. We're going to look at the golfers to watch. A couple of golfers, myself and Andy, have got an eye on, and we're going to make our final predictions. Andy, obviously, last year Dustin Johnson smashed the record at Augusta, obviously in different times. What's the big differences? Obviously, that last year obviously was in November, which is completely different to what it usually is. How different is it going to be this year compared to normal years?
Well, compared to normal years, I think it's going to play a bit faster and a bit firmer than it has done the last few years, according to reports. I was listening to a podcast today, and Lee Westwood has said it's the toughest he's ever seen it.
Right.
So that'll be interesting. So it's a big change certainly from November, when it was, the players were complaining a little bit about the greens being a wee bit slow. It was very soft, very much target golf, and that was reflected in the scoring. So I think it'll be more like possibly a kind of more traditional Masters, where the conditions and the forecast is pretty settled through the week. There's not a lot of rain, kind of a wee bit breezy in parts by the looks of it. So I think it's all going to lend itself to a great tournament. Definitely.
We'll start off with Dustin Johnson, the favourite, 8-1. He obviously the defending champion of last year. This year he hasn't been as consistent, a bit of kind of dip in form. Would you go along with that? I'd say maybe not the same Dustin Johnson we saw last year going into Augusta.
Aye, I mean, he won in that kind of controversial event in Saudi Arabia, where they're all getting paid mega bucks for playing, and he looked brilliant, and you just thought, here he goes again. But for his level, he has struggled a bit over the last few weeks, and he took last week off to kind of work in his game, so that's not a great sign. But he's that type. He's the world number one. He's that type of player. I don't think he's the kind of player to really let things get to him. You've seen that with his demeanour last year. He's pretty laid back. So, and he's got a really simplistic style about him. The things he's working on, he's pretty clear. So I don't think he'll be too complicated for him to get back on track. So I wouldn't surprise me if he was there or thereabouts at the end.
Yeah, always. I mean, last year he wasn't getting into it with the best Masters form, but last year he just took the course by storm. I mean, a brilliant 4 rounds. It played so well. Bryson DeChambeau at 9-1 as well. This is a golfer I'm keen. I know we had a discussion about this in last year's previous show.
Aye.
I think as well with Bryson, he's not going in with as much confidence as I think he was overconfident last year. Would you go along with that?
No. He's certainly a lot quieter, isn't he? He's not making any bold predictions, and he's maybe learned from that. But yeah, I think he's look how far he hits it. You stick him in any golf course.
Yeah.
If he gets a week he hits it straight, he can win anywhere. The good thing about this week, which might help him actually, is if it is playing firm and fast, then there's maybe takes driver out his hands for quite a few holes, which might not be a bad thing going by some of the stuff we've seen last year. But Yeah, a lot's made of his driving. He's in good form. I mean, he what his last 3 starts, he won the Arnold Palmer, then he was tied third at the Players.
Played really well in the Arnold Palmer, didn't he?
And he's in good form. So you can't discount him, but I think as well, the rest of his game is very underrated. I mean, this is a guy who was a world-class player and then decided to, eat a lot of Monster Munch and turn into the Hulk, to be honest, and just had to absolutely miles, while still being a world-class player. So you only have to see the effect it's had in other players. I'm sure we'll talk about Rory in a minute or two, but it's the effect he's having on other players as well, which is in his favour. But he's box office, isn't he? He's great to watch.
Yeah, I think it'd be some result for the sport if Bryson was to win. I think he's the typical thing is he's a Marmite person, but would it worry you slightly? I know this is kind of something that I read up on the other day. Would it worry you that how low his stats are in hitting fairways? But obviously, we know how long he hits the ball, but he's not been hitting fairways as consistent. And I think in a course like Augusta, that is a big negative.
You need it's as all the experts tell you, it's a second shot golf course. So you need to be able to control your the spin, your iron shots into the green, because if you're coming out of position off the tee, then you're really going to struggle to hold the greens, to find the right part of the greens, and it can unravel from you very, very quickly. But he needs to hit more. That's the thing. Last year he made tons of birdies and a few eagles, but he just didn't make. It was just all over the place. Compared to likes of DJ that we spoke about, it was just like that's just a solid, birdie machine, just no mistakes really, nothing outrageous. Picked off the par fives, and that's what won him the tournament. So it'll be great. It'll be good to watch. So you say Marmite, people will be watching them, wanting them to the players, but desperate for him to win. So it'll be good to watch.
Definitely. We'll move on to a player who's been playing pretty well lately and coming back into a really good piece of form. He hadn't won for 4 years since the 2017 Open at Birkdale, but I'm delighted that he won over the weekend. Everybody knows me and knows how much I love golf, knows that I'm a huge Jordan Spieth fan. He's 10-1. Obviously, it was a brilliant story winning. I had goosebumps watching him win on Sunday. Just an amazing story. He looks a lot more settled after that. I mean, one thing I noticed in the back nine, just how much you could see when he was birding. He was playing against a consistent player in Charlie Hoffman as well. So after he was usually in a back nine in the past couple of weeks, he's kind of went down a wee bit, but he's played well up to a point. He played really well in the back nine, which I think obviously won him the tournament. But I think there's a bit of confidence coming back now with Jordan Spieth, and it could be just coming back at the right time.
Aye, definitely. He's been trending really well. I mean, you see his attitude looks really spot on. He looks very settled. It almost like he knows he's in the right track. I watched him at Pebble Beach a few weeks ago when he had a chance of winning, and Daniel Berger won, and Berger could have won it, to be fair to him. But even then, at the end, he was very positive, very upbeat. And this has been coming for a while. Only fear for him is it's so difficult to win 2 weeks in a row, and he's maybe just peaked too early. What happened to him at the 12th a few years ago when he kind of threw it away, but his scoring record round there is incredible. I think he's basically the second best strokes gained per round in the history of the Masters. It's an incredible record he's got, and you're right, the manner that he won the other day was excellent. He looked, even when Hoffman got within a shot, he never flustered. He just and
Jordan Spieth a couple of years ago would have
definitely. So I absolutely, and again, with the conditions being as they seem to be, he's not one of the longest. He's not one of the best drivers. He's not as if he's short but accurate. He can be pretty wild. So these conditions maybe take a wee bit of the premium off driving. So that could help him as well.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be a huge moment if Jordan Spieth wins. He's probably my pick, which we'll make later on. But we'll move on to John Ram, obviously a new father. I wouldn't say he's been brilliant lately. I know he's still on his day, probably, apart from Rory, probably the most talented player on the tour. But would it worry you kind of how his form going into this tournament?
Possibly, but again, you don't know he's made a big deal that, you know, he would happily pull out of the Masters if his wife was due to give birth, you know, no matter what. So that's obviously been playing in his mind a lot. And who knows, off the course, things like that might have been affecting him a little bit. But again, how often do we see? I've seen a stat where I think Danny Willett won just after becoming a father. And one of the other guy, I can't remember off the top of my head who it was.
I think it was Bubba.
Bubba, that's right. Just after becoming, so there's a precedent there. So again, perspective and all the rest of it. So you never know, but you've got to wonder how much his mind's really going to be on it, you know. But again, super talented player, and he's so long and he makes tons of birdies. So Augusta will suit him, you know. Yeah,
definitely. I think he's a big chance as well. Justin Thomas obviously won the Players' Championship this year. He's been really consistent, always is. Master consistency in the PGA Tour as well. Only the one major win, which I think we'll look back if he doesn't kind of get a major kind of, so we'll look back and think how many could he have won. But I think he's a massive chance here. He's probably going in. I think he's probably the most consistent player going into this tournament this year.
I really like his chances as well. Talking about Jordan Spieth trending, his Masters record, Justin Thomas was 39th, 22nd, 17th, 12th, 4th. So he's went, you know, he's bettered his performance every time he's been there. He's got the classy player, great iron player, very good wedge player. So I would certainly, he's definitely near the top of my list for picks anyway, and I think he's every right to be one of the favourites going in.
Yeah, I thought it was magnificent, the Players' Championship as well. Rory McIlroy, obviously, that if he needs a win at the Masters to complete his career Grand Slam. I read an interesting interview the other day with his coach, who said basically this new swing is going to take a wee while for him to get used to. One thing I've noticed lately with Rory, and I know what he's trying to do, and I know it probably will work out eventually, but his temperament, you can see he's not happy with the way he's playing, and obviously he's completely changed what he's trying to do, and I know a lot of golfers are trying to do the same, but I don't think I think this week he's going to do okay. I just don't see his game in good enough shape this week.
We need a big shift, I think. I think he's made a brilliant decision in going to Petekow, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It's whether or not he can get that bounce straight away. He is such a naturally gifted player, probably the most naturally gifted around just now. Rory in full flow is probably I think he's the best player in the world when he's in the game. His major wins kind of reflect that with the amount of shots he's won by, but he seems, I don't know if you've seen the interview he done a few weeks ago and he was basically openly admitted he was trying to chase Bryson for distance and things. He just seems totally lost. It would take a big shift for him to do. Last year, apart from his first round, he was the best player in the field. He beat Justin Johnson for the last 3 rounds. So that's how good he is. But it's his first round. He seems to have a huge obstacle to go over the first round of majors. I'd love to see him complete the Grand Slam, because I think if he did, he could just go on and just, you know, win again, you know, multiple majors. But the longer it goes on, the more question mark there's going to be, you know.
Yeah, I think I can. Yeah, you can see what he's trying to do, and I think it will, as I said earlier, it will pay off eventually, but it might come too soon. Patrick Cantlay, 18-1. Now, I'm a huge fan of Patrick Cantlay. I think he's in the Justin Thomas mode. Just a consistent player. Doesn't hit the ball far. Doesn't drive the ball far, but just consistent. Great iron player, great wedge player. Really good putter as well. It doesn't get mentioned often enough just how good he is in the green, but he's up there. I think he's got a really good chance this week. I always think Augusta is the type of player that Augusta could suit.
Just like you say, he's so consistent. He's one. He always goes under the radar a wee bit for me as well. He's just a classy player. Just the way he looks, the way he kind of carries himself. He's just a really very Adam Scott type player. Very classy, very neat and tidy. We could argue it's about time he really contended properly in majors. He's kind of maybe flattered to deceive a wee bit, but I think he's had fits and starts at Augusta where he's looked really good, and then kind of like I said, flattered to deceive a wee bit. But quality player, I think. Would you be surprised if someone like him won? Probably not. You know, that's the next step for him, for that type of player as a major, really.
Definitely. We'll just mention a few players kind of around the kind of 20-1 and below mark. We'll just mention quickly: Xander Schauffele 20-1, Brooks Koepka 25, Colin Morikawa 25, Lee Westwood, Patrick Reed, Paul Casey, Tony Finau, Victor Hovland 28. Is there any players in there that you want to give a wee mention to?
I think Morikawa is a great shout. I think he's such a good iron player. Approach play is going to be so key this week. And okay, he doesn't putt fantastically well, but again, statistically hits so many greens and hits so many good iron shots, he's never going to make every putt he looks at. So that can maybe be a wee bit misleading. But I mean, him, Thomas, Tyrrell Hatton, I think they're the three leaders in strokes gained approach play. So going by the conditions it's going to be this week, just like we said about Thomas, I think Morikawa is a really good bet at that. He's already won a major, won a WGC's big time player. Again, almost kind of because he's a bit unassuming, he doesn't hit it miles, he kind of flies under the radar a wee bit, I think. But I think that is really good value in that, I think. Yeah.
Brooks Koepka's at 25-1. Are you surprised to see him turn up? Because I know when I saw him the other day practicing, I thought after his operation, I think he had an operation at the beginning of the year, didn't he, for his knee?
I
was surprised to see him.
They were saying he was going to be out for about 6 or 8 months. And then he get down, I've seen a few things on Twitter, he get down on one knee to propose to his fiancée, and I've seen a few folks saying, what knee was he going down on? Was it his bad knee or that? So there's a bit of conjecture with that. But then he's here. He must be pretty rusty. I know. I think
that's my worry.
I think he's played a few games at Riviera, I read, but in practice, but it's not the same. And again, massive big time player, but and a good record at Augusta. But you've got to think he's going to be a bit rusty.
Yeah, if there's a player in this list, I would love to see one a major. It would definitely be Lee Westwood for me. But how surprised are you how well he's been playing lately? Very unlucky at the Players' Championship as well.
Well, Andy Arnold Palmer was second to DeChambeau as well. I mean, he's just looks as if he's loving life right now, doesn't he? He's as if he's got a new lease of life. He's always been such a quality player. Tee to green, he's probably up there, other than even including Tiger. He probably drove it as good or better than Tiger ever drove it statistically. But it's always been putting that's gonna let him down. But again, he's played a lot of golf, and I know he's in fantastic shape. When you look at him, from now compared to 20 years ago, and it's like a different, going back in time, he's like a different person. But he's played a lot of golf at a really good level, and it might be even physically. 4 rounds at Augusta, it's going to be hard going, and he is fit, like I said, but it's maybe mentally it takes its toll a wee bit. But like you say, if I could pick one player in the field to win, it would 100%.
Definitely. I'm a huge fan of Victor Hovland. Now, there's something about him. I just think he's got such good. He's just so talented. He's a player. I think he's definitely a player. If you can get like 10 places, I would definitely pick him each way. I just think he's a really, really good player, and I think he's going to win about 3 or 4 of these going forward. I think he's a terrific talent.
Again, with that crop, like some Morikawa, Matt Wolf coming through, it's brilliant for the game for these guys, and to have these guys coming through. But yeah, just really refreshing to see him. He just great personality. That kind of reflects his game as well. He's very much a kind of, you'd say, a kind of flair player. When he's good, he's really good. Pretty fearless as well. So, yeah, I mean, why not? Good finish. Certainly, I would expect him to have a pretty good finish because he's not got too many weaknesses in his game. I know his chipping was pretty poor for a while, but he's just worked really hard on that. And yeah, I'm a big fan of his as well, definitely.
Yeah, I really hope he does well this week. A couple of kind of 66-1 I quite like. Abraham Answer, who was very, very close last year. I think he was maybe 3rd or 4th last year at one stage. He could be one each way, and another really exciting talent that I've kind of took a wee shine to lately, Will Zalatoris. He looks as if he's really talented as well.
He's another one. He's again up there. With strokes gained approach play, he's again top 5 in that. He's a very good iron player. So again, he could be a one to watch. I think he's one of the rookies. There's only 3 rookies this week. Obviously, Bob McIntyre's one of the other ones, but I think a big ask for him to actually go all the way. But I definitely for some of the bookies paying top 10 or top 11 or whatever, then definitely great value for likes of someone like him. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Bob McIntyre as well, obviously going out for his first Masters. A brilliant victory for him against Dustin Johnson, which will definitely be giving him a lot of confidence. Do you think he could play well this week?
We've seen left-handers before, haven't we? And
Mike Wheeler was the one that sticks out. Mike Wheeler was the one that sticks out.
That's right. I mean, he's got absolutely nothing to lose. I mean, he's got a great attitude. He seems nothing really phases him. Just a nice, honest big guy. Great to have. A decent kind of Scottish hope as well. He's 44th in the world now as well. He's turning into a real proper player. So it's just great for us to have someone to kind of, other than Sandy Lyle. I know Mark Wheeler's there as well, but great. Just great to have someone to keep an eye on it. I think I read somewhere that England have got 10 players or something in the Masters, which is incredible. So it's good to have a couple of our boys here as well.
Definitely.
Flying the flags.
Definitely. Is there any players kind of big odds that you think could have a chance to get into each way?
I always like Mark Leishman at the Masters. It's maybe a myth. I don't know. It's like Fred Couples myth. Everybody thinks he leads after the first round, which is just nonsense. But I like Mark Leishman. I've kind of backed him each way. It's like 110 to 1 or 100 to 1 or something. Just good value. It's a bit of fun, but he's the kind of guy. He has got a good record round there. Big lumper boy, hits it far, puts well. So yeah, he's one that I've certainly had a wee look at. That always going to do at Augusta.
Brilliant. Just a wee thing as well. Obviously, we'll touch on our final predictions. Who would be the kind of who would be the one you would most like to see win?
Definitely most like to see one would be Westwood, no question. Westwood or McIlroy. I'd love to see them. One of them win. I just even somebody like Tony Finau as well. That'd be brilliant for him to win. You know, if anybody deserves it, it's somebody like him. But I'm still picking Bryson again after picking him in November as well. I'm still. I think he'll have some to say this week.
There'd be some story for Bryson. Jordan Spieth, I'm going to put him up as my number 1 pick. I just would love to see it. Another great story. I think as well, you made an interesting point about the 12th at Augusta. I've always said that's just ate away his head, and I think that's why he's dipped. I think the minute he goes to Augusta and competes really well, I think that monkey's going to be lifted off his back. I think we've seen massive improvement in Spieth, and I think this week, as you say, it's tough to win 2 weeks in a row, but if he gives a good account of himself, I think what it'll do for him confidence-wise, I think will be a great story. So I'd love to see Spieth win it. So that's my favourite pick. That's the person I'd like to see win the most. Right, final picks, three golfers to follow for the viewers. 3 golfers you want there.
Other than my main pick, Bryson, I would go, just looking down the list here, boy Corey Connors, Canadian boy, as a kind of outsider, 80 to 1, done well last year. When he get in, who else have we got? Probably outsider wise, Jason Day, 50 to 1. He's struggled a little bit, new coach and all that, but he traditionally always does quite well at Augusta. And a slightly kind of less odds, I would go Cam Smith, who's 35 to 1. Tied second last year. Again, the conditions this year, he's not one of the biggest hitters, but he's a really good competitor. The kind of tough conditions could suit someone like that to kind of just hang about, and quite a gritty competitor as well. So that would be kind of 3 kind of outside the normal names I would say to look at.
Brilliant. Apart from Spieth, my 3 picks would be Patrick Cantlay, 18 to 1. Joaquin Niemann was a player I meant to mention earlier as well, 45 to 1. Another really, really exciting prospect for the future. Just think he's got the game. I think it could have come a bit too early, possibly. And one I would quite like to get your thoughts on is a player, Victor Perez at 100 to 1. Somebody out the blue, but I think he's improved. He's been a really, really good improver on the European Tour, and I think that there's always a European player who does really well.
Aye, good shout. I mean, certainly a good Ryder Cup, pick possibly, or good potential for that. Kind of adopted Scot. I think he stays in Dundee, or Fife or something like that. Aye, he does. I think he practices out of Scotscraig, I believe, or somewhere up there. But quality player. And any of these guys who get on a roll with the putter, I mean, keep it in play, and just putt well. And the other thing as well is, okay, traditionally Augusta winners, it's horses for courses, it's guys who've got experience. But when you say there's always 1 or 2 names that all look at last year, Sung J M, Cam Smith, Abraham Ansell, like you said, why not somebody like Victor coming through? It gets hot. These guys are all quality players. Plus, if you've not played it a lot, you've not got any demons. You've not got any ghosts in your closet to come out and bite you. So you've got a kind of open mind to play it. So why not?
Definitely, but it's the week of the year we look forward to the most as golf fans. I know for the 4 days I'm going to be sitting enjoying every bit. Are you going to be watching it? Every shot yourself?
Try and watch every shot, certainly as many as possible. Have it on at work as well in the afternoon, and then straight home to watch it at night. So, it's brilliant. It's just, we all know the golf course. It's a great time for us, kind of early evening into not too late. So it's brilliant for us to watch. And we've all got so many memories of it, so it's
definitely.
It's brilliant.
Definitely, but we're really looking forward to it. I just want to thank Andy as well for coming on the show and joining me here. It's been an absolute pleasure to welcome you on.
I know. Thanks very much for inviting me on. Delighted to come on. It's been good fun.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. And everyone, please enjoy the Masters. Please relax, put your feet up, enjoy the 4 days as we will. And we'll see you soon. Thanks very much, everyone. Cheers.